I'm Mark Graham, Engineering Manager here at Grilla Grills. So today I want to try to help talk about some of the errors and potentially fixes and why they happen. The grills aren't perfect. We do our best to make sure they are perfect, but it's important to you that if something goes wrong, I give you the information for you to diagnose what it is and hopefully help you get back up and running as quickly as possible. So let's start with the meat probe first. One of the codes you may see on your control board is FHI. That's food high. That means your food or your probe is seeing above 225. Couple things here. One, you either burnt your food. It should never be above 225. Two, you left your probe just laying in your grill and you're cooking at 275 or better, which I've seen a lot of people do. Or three, your probe is actually bad. To reset the code, you should simply just pull your probe out of your controller and your board should clear. If you get this wet, you submerge it in water, it will ruin these probes. So when you clean these, be very careful. Just wipe the tips here clean with a wet rag or something. Do not submerge these. Do not put them in dishwashers. I've heard stories of that. It doesn't work. These are not a sealed system. So again, FHI, it's seen 225. Your food's scorched. You left your probe in the grill, or this is actually potentially bad. And again, just be careful keeping this clean. Now we'll talk about the controller. There's two codes. There's an ERL, which is error low, and an ERH, which is error high. We'll start with the easy one first, which is the ERH. That means that the internal probe has reached 615 degrees. So the control board is like, I'm way too hot, something's wrong, I'm shutting you down. It'll immediately go into a cool down, which is a 5-minute cool down process, and then start flashing ERH. Once that's complete, you want to get in the grill, take all the stuff out, inspect your burn pot, and check your fuel source. See if anything looks weird or out of place. And 615 is pretty high, and I haven't seen too many of that issues. So just check around. And it always could be a connection too, which I'll go over in a little bit. But again, 615 degrees, ERH, something got really hot in there. The next one, the one we hear probably more than the ERH, is the ERL. What that is error low. That means the grill has dropped below 110 degrees. So what happens is once the grill drops below 110, the 110 will start flashing. That continues for 10 minutes because the control board is like, hey, something's wrong here. I need to get my heat back up. So it's dumping fuel like crazy trying to correct itself. Well, after 10 minutes, if it hasn't got above 110, it's going to shut down and like the ERH, go through a 5-minute cool down and then flash the error code ERL. And again, just like the ERH, do not try to restart these grills. There's a code for a reason. It's an error for a reason. Open the grill, check them out, clean the burn pots out and start fresh. If in either of those codes you just say, what happened? Just hit restart again. You could get excessive smoking followed by some a rapid rising temperature in the grills because of excess fuel. So it's very important. Any errors, get inside the grill. Take everything out. I know it's inconvenient, but you know what? You're better off that way. Clean everything out, inspect the fuel source, and before you try starting it. So how do you get an ERL? ERLs typically, if they happen, is at the lower temperatures. What happens is with these all pellet grills, when you're running those low temperatures, it's putting a little bit of fuel in, and then there's no fuel. A little bit of fuel and no fuel. You have to really put just a small amount of fuel to attain those low temperatures. So if it's really hot out and you're trying to cook at those low temperatures, the machine is basically just idling. It's barely putting any fuel in there. So fire management can get a little bit tricky with pellet grills at the lower temperatures. So the real variables that come in play are the fuel source. Since we're putting just a little bit of fuel in there, what actually happens, that fire will actually die down and go out and you're left with embers. Well, a few seconds later when your next round of pellets come on there, it lands on there, it'll start smoldering and smoking, and then they'll start the fire again. And then they'll die out, and that process goes over and over and over. Well, as you can imagine, if there's any interruption in the fuel or the fuel source is not good quality, that fire will die down so much that the embers are not strong enough to relight the next round of fuel. So what happens is the fuel just starts smothering it out. And it'd be much like throwing a bunch of wood on a big campfire and just smothering it out. So now what happens is as it's being smoldered out, the temperature is dropping. The software is like, hey, I got to catch back up here. So it's turning the auger on wide open. So it just starts filling the burn pot up. And at this point, there's really no recovering from that. So now we have to wait for that grill temperature to drop down. And that can take 20 to 30 minutes if you're cooking at, say, 225 and it's got to drop all the way down to 110. So during that time, the burn pot fills up with pellets, and it can actually overflow the sides of the burn pot. And we've seen this in most pellet grills. That's what happens. The software doesn't know it lost a fire. They know that temperature is dropping, but they're just trying to correct itself. So when it finally does shut down, again, as I spoke about, open the grill, take a look inside, and if that's what happened, you'll see a bunch of unburned pellets because it smothered out the fire. Simply clean those pellets out, clean the burn pot out, clean the surrounding area, check your fuel source as always, and then fire it back up. And if it still happens again, give us a call. Maybe there's something else going on, but typically it's just one of those random things that it can happen. Majority of the time is fuel related based on my experience and listening to my owners. The one other thing you can check is the error codes are all from, there's only one input on these control boards, and that's this one right here. There's two wires that come in to this little block here. That's the probe inside of the grill. Your outputs that go to your auger, your igniter, your fan, that has nothing to do with your error codes. So you can unplug the grill, remove the control board, flip it around, and just check. There's two small screws right here. Just check sure, make sure those are tight, and if any of those are loose, that could cause the error as well. The last code that I've seen once in a while is when you first turn on your grill, it immediately goes into cool down. Well, that's because this connection I just spoke of, for some reason or another, is not a good connection. They're either shorted together or they're loose, and it's not a connection. So if you get immediate C5 upon power up, check that connection. It could be the probe itself, but more than likely it's just those connections are loose. So with the information I just gave you, that covers about anything that could ever go wrong with these grills. And the conversations I have with people, weekly, I explain the same stuff. So I wanted to take the time to give this information to you and hope you can understand how the grill works a little bit better and do some little bit of troubleshooting yourself. And again, if none of that makes sense or you can't get it figured out, just give us a call. More than likely I'll talk to you or Matt will talk to you and we'll get you fixed up. But again, I'm Mark Graham with Grilla Grills. Hope to help you out here today, and give us a call if you need any help.